Hillary Clinton has two faces. The left and the right hands reveal our internal and external worlds, and Hillary Clinton's hands are a great example as to just how different they can be. Her left hand has a simian line, whereas her right hand does not. Her head and her heart line are completely separate, and they go on their own course and they do their own thing. Now, this shows that internally, the left hand here, it shows that her personal relationships, she behaves very, very differently to that of her professional ones. In her close relationships, in her domestic sphere, she is controlling, she's possessive, she's jealous, she's all-consuming, she's intense on a level that is kind of difficult to be around. Essentially, she has severe trust issues. Now, in her professional world, she behaves, she responds, and thinks and feels very, very differently, and is much more able to separate thought from feeling. Her fingers show quite a complex psychology. I have to say, overall, her hand shape is quite sort of complex here. It's quite conic, but in terms of the 12 hand type classification, it's really hard to pin her. She's probably more dynamic than anything else, but really, she's a composite hand type, which makes her much more complicated. So really, we have to break down everything that we see. First of all, I noticed that the fingers themselves, her psychology isn't all that healthy. Now, I've already mentioned that she has trust issues. The Jupiter finger bends over quite sharply on the right hand. Um, Saturn does as well, at the tip, both at the tip here. Now, this is showing that she had mixed messages when she was young. It's also showing me that she was overly criticized by role models when she was young as well, maybe even bullied as well. And that's played a part in her own impression, her own self-image, her own understanding of her own self-worth and value. Now, it might be surprising to think that she actually has low self-esteem because of just how much she's been able to achieve. But in fact, that is often a driving force behind high achievers. If we have low self worth, we have a need to achieve to compensate for that. And that is exactly what I see here. She has clearly an inferiority complex. And this is again compensated for as well by the need to control on quite a physical level, by a need to dominate as well. The Jupiter finger is very pointed at the tip, so this is a sign of a great explainer. So she is delegating, she is dominating through delegation, she is controlling through explaining. The Saturn bending at the tip here as well. This is on the left hand more than the right. And this is showing that there's potential shame or guilt here as well. Now, this right hand image is a bit more reliable in terms of the hand shape. I mean, it's kind of dynamic, but with there's a usefulness, a practical element to it as well. So this really makes her um, powerful and dynamic enemy, but a useful friend. And when I look at Jupiter here, the length of Jupiter is in fact just as long as Apollo, but Jupiter is higher set. On the left hand, Saturn appears higher set than Jupiter. Again, this shows some conflict between the inner and outer world. It shows that on a professional level, on a career, status, material level, she is far more ambitious than her internal world shows that she prioritizes duty and career and community security and ethics over her material gain. Her left-hand heart line, it is relatively long and it resides where its final destination is just low on Jupiter, the Jupiter mountain here. And this is showing that in personal close relationships, she's looking to find a partner that can help her rise in her position in life. She's prioritizing worldly gain when it comes to finding uh, a loving partner. In other words, she's not going to find someone beneath her station. Now, this is left hand, so this is very internal. This is her desires, her aspirations, her dreams, her fears, and all of this kind of thing. On her right hand, it's very, very different. And this is showing us that on an emotional level, on a physical level, rather, she is much more inclined to respond in quite a normal and natural physical way. It shows us that she has that kind of normal physical affectionate kind of side to her as well. And this really creates a contradiction around her nature, and it shows just how difficult she is to, in fact, be with in terms of, um, being in a partnership with her on quite a romantic level. Not that anyone is really interested in that, but she has both those strong, deeply complex psychological needs in order to feel comfortable and relaxed and trust another before she can really become um, affectionate and love and be loved. And these needs are quite strong here, but without trust, it's not going to happen. And she already has trust issues. So there's a lot of frustration I see in this hand here. There's a lot of restlessness as well. There's a great amount of lines here. The thumb itself has frustration lines on them as well. So there's a need for all of this energy to go somewhere. And because it's, we're finding difficulties here to express on quite an emotional level, there's certainly difficulties here expressing emotions. That energy has to go somewhere. So this is a remarkably complex person, and I have spent a great deal of time here reading her hands before creating this video because there was just so many mysteries, and there still are. And that's because essentially she's two different people. She really is. I say there's two faces to her, and that kind of provides a bit of a false impression. She's not necessarily two-faced, although I don't think that the truth is up there in terms of priorities. I think how she can use specific truths, that might be. But I think she's incredibly complicated, and there's a I think she probably recognizes in herself as well that she is a walking contradiction. Her thumb is long. Look at the length of it. When you compare it to the third phalanx of Jupiter, just look at how long this thumb is. She's a deep thinker. She's a planner. She is active in making things happen. The strength of the thumb is quite wide. It's balanced as well, though. It's got a good degree of logic in comparison to willpower. It's balanced, and it shows. Although she is quite sort of dogmatic in how she carries out her will, she's quite regulated in terms of, quite structured in how she carries out her actions. She's also fairly measured and balanced in her approach as well. Her right hand does, in fact, show that she is fairly open-minded, that she is creative. So I'm getting the impression that she's very resourceful, she's very adaptive. She is something of a survivor because survival, after all, is about how we adapt. And there's strong capabilities to fight here as well. When I look at inner Mars, it's tremendously strong here. Obviously, the way in which she's holding her hand here provides us with, a kind of an increased inner amount of Mars here. But look at this, and this is really important. The lifeline here, where it detaches itself from the headline, is at a very young age. So we're seeing a very, very independent and early claim to independence here, probably around the age of 14 or so. And then you've got this remarkably strong, at the age of 22, ambition line. And this ambition line is backed up by this powerful line from inner Mars here. So there's a feeling of anger, drive and motivation, aggression here, a need to fight, which is tied in with this need to achieve and reach her goals, to rise up and to provide herself with a greater sense of self-worth. And that's kind of where this inferiority complex is born out of. So I feel like I think there's problems at home here. I think there have been overly critical, overbearing role models, either teachers or parents here have really played quite a strong role in um, kind of whipping her to a point where she's fought back, if that makes sense. And that's not necessarily fighting back at them, but she has found a way to release some of this built up frustration and tension and fight and kind of not fight back at the world, but this driving force to pursue and to push on is in some way it's absolutely linked to her childhood, and it's her way of expressing herself. It's her way of releasing a lot of this frustration and pent up tension. 30 years of age, I find a really interesting age in her life because you see here a tremendous effort line here. I'm not sure exactly what happened here at the age of 30, but the left hand once again shows a very, very different story. Now look at the age of 30 here, which is just here, the age of 30. And you can see here and it's attached to a tremendously powerful loyalty line. And there's a Mars line here as well, and this Mars line has developed since this young age, since this age of developing this ambition. Now, what you see here is this window, a box over her life at the age of, um, well, actually, it starts in her 20s and doesn't finish until 35. But it kind of culminates that it really presents itself in some way internally at the age of 30. So this is alongside this tremendous effort she's made at this time as well. Actually, it looks like this effort is more like 25. So just sort of 5 years later, there's this. I feel like it's linked. Now, this sort of window hanging over her life here, that not only is there a need to fight which is connected to this, but there is a fear around possibly her own sexuality, understanding herself in some way, her identity. But there is also the possible, a very real fear of imprisonment or some kind of isolation from society at this time. So there's almost like there's this need to press on, to fight against, to um, there's a struggling element here against herself, in fact, because we're looking at the left hand, to push against. There's resistance that's created within here, and she's pushing against it. And again, this is all tied in with her sense of frustration and tension that she's got here. Now check this out. Hillary's loyalty line, which is this just here. She does in fact have two of them. There's another here. I mean, to be more specific, this is her mother line, and this is a loyalty line. In effect, they are in some way both a loyalty line. Now, this one starts off really, really strong, really powerful, and it kind of separates her Venus mount from her inner Mars mount. And inner Mars, you can see just how large it is here. She is a force to be reckoned with, and as I've mentioned at the beginning of this reading, she's a dynamic enemy and a useful friend. You don't really want to get on the wrong side of her, but she's great to have at your side in a fight. Now, this loyalty line starts off incredibly strong, and it then starts to become weaker. And as it does, it veers down and touches the lifeline. And where it does this is at the exact age of which Bill Clinton had his affair with Monica Lewinsky. So what we're seeing here is her tremendous loyalty towards her position alongside her partner. And as I've mentioned, her partner is someone she has chosen to be with out of worldly gain and achieving and rising in status. So this breach of her loyalty is much more. I think the frustration, the anger that comes from this is at her how it affects her career more than anything else. And where we see the loyalty kind of run out, this line here, and how we see it kind of running out slowly over time, it shows how she's running out of patience. She's literally running out of loyalty for what this represents. And in my mind, this is certainly her relationship with Bill Clinton. And this secondary loyalty line here is something very different. I feel like it's her loyalty towards her career and her overall. It's almost like a loyalty towards herself and what she can do for herself, and how she can gain. Be wrong about that. This could in fact be strong feelings towards a specific family member, and as I've mentioned, the mother line via Mata. This is often referred to as these loyalty lines, and it could well be powerful figure in her family that she really looks up to. Now, remember I mentioned earlier how at 22 there was a significant ambition here, just here. You can see this ambition rising. You can see the anger, the drive, the motivation that fuels it, that sparks it. And you can see the sun line here. This success line is rising from her fate line at this age of 22. It's like there was an explosive event here in terms of success. And what you also see here is another duality of fate here. Um, there's a resistance towards her goals at a very young age. So what we're seeing is misfortune at a young age, and where this misfortune runs out, we see a reimbursement of good fortune. So essentially, this is a bad luck line, and when the bad luck runs out, we have almost like a rebate, like a fate rebate, if you like. Good luck is given back to her at this time, and this is what's provided her with some of the opportunities. And certainly, becoming First Lady was a massive opportunity, a big step, obviously much later than 22 that occurred for her. But notice this money line right here, and it comes off the heart line. So there's no coincidence. That's obviously money through, again, status gained through a personal relationship. And it kind of looks like it's coming from the direction. The direction it's coming from is from this time just here. So it's this time when she became First Lady. It's this presidential relationship. Well, what I find really interesting is that this almost like a secondary heart line here above her Simian line, and it kind of presents itself as a secondary heart line. I'm more inclined to believe it is, but it also sort of looks like a girdle of Venus as well. It's like a low-hanging girdle of Venus, and in many ways they are very much related. There are very similar meanings, and this is absolutely showing some um, tremendous sort of sensitivity, some instinct here, and it's attached to this money line. So it's showing me that there's certainly urges here towards worldly gain, towards actually just making money. There's I think there's some substitution here for um, gaining money with love, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of it is born out of these trust issues. A lot of is born out of her childhood as well. And what this is showing me is that there is probably a need for cognitive behavioral therapy in order to adapt some of those thoughts and beliefs and feelings that probably create some potentially ideas or even behaviors. And until she truly recognizes and acknowledges these and works through them, I don't feel it's possible for her to gain true happiness and success and fulfillment, really. What I do find really interesting, though, is, and it's kind of faint, you see it on the right hand here, it's this just here. So we've got here a direct connection with fate, destiny, and her success. You can see here a direct obstacle that cuts across her success at the age of around about 70, which at that time in her life, to be more specific, 68, she was going through that 2016 presidential campaign against Trump. So we see here the direct career-related obstacle towards her personal status gain, her success. But then look at this. On her left hand, her success line, or her sun line, if you like, after this time of the age of 70, it takes a dramatic turn towards Mercury. And it's showing us again, she's a survivor. She's adapting. She's playing to her strengths. She's never giving up. And once she faces an obstacle, she plays to her strengths. She, instead of fights against resistance um, externally, she finds a new way to play to her strengths. And this is absolutely communication. As I mentioned earlier, she's a great explainer. This pointed tip of Jupiter is always someone who is very, very capable of breaking down information and explaining, delegating. She is an expert and very sort of authoritative. And so what we're seeing here is actually her kind of turning inwards. She's internalizing. She is becoming much more introspective at this time, and she's channeling. She's moving down a road of expression and communication, and looking within in order to attain fulfillment and success and happiness. And that is absolutely what she needs to be doing in order to become happy. Truly, she'll probably never really present her true self to the public. She's a very, very different person behind closed doors, and I think she always will be. But until she truly is truthful with herself about who that is and just how her upbringing has affected her, she's never going to be, or much less likely to become happy. Whose greatest struggles lies within her own complex uh, abilities to understand and express her truths to herself. Until she can face up to herself in this way, she will probably always have two faces. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Let me know if you would like a palm reading. Please do book one with me on my website. Let me know who you'd like me to read the hands of next week. Thank you very much for watching, and please do subscribe. I think what I might do is compare Donald Trump with Hillary Clinton. A little bit late to be doing this, really, isn't it? But I still think it would be very interesting because they both have some useful traits there. They're both very, very different, but I do think it would be an interesting comparison.